December of 1829, the Cherokee Nation wrote a letter to Congress. It was formal, it was respectful, it was even legally precise. They said, quote, "We have never ceded nor forfeited the occupancy of the soil. It contains our fathers' ashes. It is the land of our nativity. We do solemnly protest," unquote. Congress received it in true congressional fashion. They tabled it and they moved on. And 5 months later, the Indian Removal Act was signed into law. I'm Chuck Lenahan, clinical mental health therapist, and your guide through the history that they decided that you didn't need to know. This Friday in episode 4 of my podcast, Committed to Misunderstanding, I'm going to prove that what followed was not a tragedy. It was not an inevitable clash of civilizations. It was not the sad but necessary march of progress. It was simply a policy, with decision makers with documented motives, with a Supreme Court ruling that even said that the Cherokee were right, and then a president who looked at that ruling and let it die. I'm going to talk about the legal doctrine issued by the Catholic Church in 1452 that as late as 2005 was still being cited by the United States Supreme Court in their decisions. I'm going to talk about the treaty signed by a handful of Cherokee without the authority of the Cherokee Nation, opposed by 15,000 signed petitioners, and then ratified by the United States Senate by one single vote. But the policy is only part of the story, because you can document a policy, you can cite a law, you can name a vote. What's harder to put in record is what it means to be torn from the ground where you're dead or buried. And from a clinical perspective, that's where I'm compelled to go next. The Cherokee had a name for what followed in their own language, a name that means the trail where they cried, the path where they wept and died. We took that name. We shortened it. We softened it. We called it the Trail of Tears, and we put it in a textbook, and then we moved on. I'm working to say the name for it correctly, because the least I can do for the people who walked it is to say it right. This Friday, we're not moving on. Committed to Misunderstanding, available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. History is the longest record of human behavior that we have, and I'm here to read it correctly, because I have the receipts.